I think we're live. I'm hoping we're live.
I don't see my face, but I think we're live. There we go.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, we're good to go.
Okay. I can't see my face since I'm sharing the presentation, but I'll accept that we're live. I'm Ross Hunsinger. I'm the Director of Food and Beverage Innovation at Abstrax Tech in Tustin, California. Ben, you want to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. I'm Penn Lewis. I've been with Abstrax about 4 or 5 months now. I had the opportunity to work with somebody amazing like Ross. This project is super, super exciting, and I've been actually going to be out at the Virginia event next week. So super excited to connect with folks in person, talk a little bit more about our product, and we've got some tips from that too as well. So I'll be kind of a silent partner today. Ross is the brain behind the project, so I'll let him take it from here.
Maybe slim pickings in the brain for us today. We'll see what's up. So yeah, I guess a bit of a background before we dive into the actual functionality of the product we're talking about today and the technology behind it. Abstrax is a terpene flavor house based in Southern California, the largest supplier to the terpene vape market. The United States, arguably the world. I've been working specifically on terpene beverage innovations and applications for about the last 6 years, and leveraging Abstrax's technology for analytics. I've been able to find a way to accurately recreate hop aroma outside of the plant in a downstream dry hopping solution. So it's the big picture of what we're talking about today. So I guess we can start going into the tiny little pieces. I'm sure most of you are familiar with what terpenes are, but good to gloss through it. Terpenes are, I always say, the secret language of plants. They are the signaling mechanisms for pollination, for defense, for a myriad of functions within the plant. They're also responsible for the way all plants smell. Christmas trees, lavender, fig, spruce, cannabis, hops, all terpenes. Traditionally, terpenes have been used in perfumery, some in flavor work, but largely in perfumery and traditional medicine. All terpenes can be isolated from any organic biomass. So any single lot biomass can yield specific terpenes. Using lavender as an example, it's very, very high on an isolate called linalool. So when we extract lavender, we're looking for linalool. When we extract Valencia oranges, we're looking for valencine. And all of these individual components can be put back together leveraging this analysis we're going to talk about here to recreate hops outside of the plant. Why hops outside of the plant? A lot of reasons. Not that we don't love hops and we're not complete plant nerds at Abstrax, but as we all know, it's an agricultural product. There's a significant amount of drift from year to year, from lot to lot, from farm to farm. So eliminating the drift and creating a safety net of consistency is definitely one of the functions of the product. The other is absorption via loss of yield via absorption into hops. Since our solutions are liquid or a powder, they don't absorb liquid volume. They still maintain the same amplitude of a pound charge of hops. So we're seeing in some cases up to 30% greater yield, recapturing that sellable beer that would have been lost to absorption otherwise. Also really important to talk about tank real estate and turn time. It's an immediate infusion, immediate addition, no long waits on dry hopping. We look at this as a new color for the palette for the artist to paint with. And in addition to standard public varieties, we're offering all of the boutique varieties, all of the designer genetics, I guess you could call them as well. So we're not subject to the same limited supply of, say, something like Nelson Sauvin, or the cost fluctuations of something like Mosaic, because we operate outside of the plant. We're not beholden to what the plant gives us or what we take from the farm. To get into that a little bit more and how we do that, this is kind of an outline of our innovations process and how we develop these materials or these solutions. So, like I said, we'll get further into the weeds on the science piece of it here momentarily, but essentially we take a sample of a given lot of hops, we extract them, we distill them, we analyze that essential oil in our 3D modeling software, which we'll get a glimpse of here momentarily. So we, through that analysis, get to select the input materials, delete the ones we don't want. This is where the true optimization happens, where we're hitting the mute button on undesirable compounds and notes, and we are building what we want to be representative or true to type of the sample that we're working with. Goes into the standardization of the ingredients, where this is purely just an in-house compliance thing. We do multiple stages of testing for, actually, from the time we get an individual isolate to the time it's in a finished formula. There are 4 separate tests that are done to make sure that the ingredients are standardized and safe. And then they're compounded into the varietal specific formulation. From there too, we can also break off on a separate limb of the tree and do what I like to call the Dungeons and Dragons hops, where we can customize attributes and even effects of certain hop profiles and cannabis profiles as well. And then put it into our final application, which we offer an oil-soluble format, a liquid water-soluble, and a powder as well. So here we go into the nitty-gritty of the real secret sauce and what makes our process special, which is what makes the solution special. So current industry standard for doing all flavor work for all analysis is a one-dimensional gas chromatography instrument. And that's this first image you can see on the far left in this small box with the aggressive-looking peaks on it. What you see there with those peaks is each one of those peaks corresponds to a specific compound. As you can see in the highlighted one, there's really only one compound that you can see, quote unquote, in that peak. What we've done in the second dimension is space that time of flight out so that we're able to identify compounds hidden within that single peak. So adding the second dimension of time gives us the ability to pull out that information. And the biggest addition is the third dimension, and this is akin to looking at the skyline of Manhattan or any city from a river, where you can see all of the buildings in front of you. You have a sense of the scale, you have a sense of shape, but you have no idea what's on the other side of those buildings. So first dimension is very much like looking from the river, and the 3 dimension is like looking from a drone. We can go on the other side of the buildings, we can go down to street level, we can see how far off of the ground that fire hydrant stands up. And those are the really important things, like the fire hydrant or the garbage can on the other side of the building, because those are those compounds that only exist in really, really small quantities that really give hops and cannabis their nature. So things like thiols, minor outlying sulfuric compounds, things of that nature are what we're now able to identify that haven't been identified in this work before, which is what makes it very special. This is extremely, extremely into the weeds here, talking about granulated volatile sulfur compounds. But this is just another visualization of the specificity with which we can pull information from a given sample. So our instrument, in addition to the mass spectrometer, has the flame ionization detection and the sulfur chemiluminescence detector as well. And those are both for pinpointing extremely dynamic compounds in extremely, extremely, extremely small concentrations. And again, these are compounds that would not be identifiable through any other means of analysis but ours. Related to this as well, we did publish a white paper in ACS Omega on the identification of those prenulated volatile sulfuric compounds in cannabis, and have done the same in hops as well. That is the most read white paper on ACS Omega currently. I'm very, very proud of that. A lot of crossover from our work in cannabis has found its way into hops. This is kind of to hammer at home on the power of that sulfur detector. These are 7 compounds through a second retention time run that would have been completely invisible, and these are the dank sulfuric compounds that make hops hops, and without this technology would not have been visible to anyone. To that end, when we're talking about hops, the most major terpene you find is generally always myrcene, rounded out by humulene and ocimene, caryophyllene, things of that nature. You can see where those concentrations fall. And then you go into flavorants like methyl heptanone or isobutyrate, amyl propionate. These are extremely, extremely small concentrations, and again, are the compounds responsible for generating the specific flavors of each variety. So this is really the secret sauce that we leverage to create these downstream products. And here's an overlay of the extracted hop oil from Centennial and our recreation of that hop oil outside of the plant. Now you can see the slight differences in the overlay, and that is the true optimization. So as with any distillation process, when you distill something, you concentrate the good and the bad flavors. Through our analysis, we're able to identify what's causing off flavors or undesirable flavors and hit the mute button on those. So the differences you're seeing between these two analytical graphs is us hitting the mute button on undesirable flavor notes within the Centennial. And this was 2021 Bell's Whole Cone Centennial. So it's very, very good Centennial. And this is actually what is on the market in our Centennial form. And that pretty much does it. Any questions?
I don't see anything in the chat, but yeah, I mean, any common, what common questions would you say that we're dealing with in the field? And do you think that it would be prudent to speak to some of our new technologies, emulsion technologies that we're planning on potentially launching here shortly, in like powdered extracts? Or
I mean, the powders are available. Touched on those. I guess typical questions are usually in the use rate range. we see about half an ounce per barrel, half an ounce to an ounce per barrel. We like to say that a half an ounce equals the amplitude of 1 pound of T90. I honestly think that's probably the most common question. And
Yeah, I would say that. I would say when to apply the product. And we always say, anytime on the cold side, we have no alphas in the product. So it's not a bittering product, it's dry hopping. And then also, should we touch maybe potentially on some of our cannabis like varietals that we have due to some of maybe the similarities between hops and cannabis? Or do we want to keep this focused
yeah,
on?
no, I mean, we really did just talk about hops. I mean, all of this technology was developed in the cannabis space to recreate those genetic profiles outside of the plant for use in the vape market. Um, to that end, we've leveraged those flavors to bring them into the food and beverage market. So we are pretty successful with the application of that in the beer market for sure. So if you've had a chance to indulge in any overmarket cannabis flavored beers, there's a very, very good likelihood that it's our flavors powering it. Yes, so we offer
11 different varietals right now.
of hops, but there are, I think, 20 different cannabis varieties.
Yeah, and we'll shortly have that additional 6 available. The blackberry, the super lemon haze will be coming out, gassed up gelato. So lots of good options there. And I can just speak to Abstrax's capabilities in the cannabis space and like really where the technology was built. I've been in cannabis for 12 years, and for a long, long time in the industry, there was a stigma against botanically derived terpenes. And I think that the reason was because nobody had the ability to analyze cannabis to the degree that Abstrax could. So they were always missing notes. People would always refer to it as a distillate taste. But in reality, nobody had the ability to analyze the product to the ability to recreate it in a way where it was actually true to type. Abstrax was the very first company that absolutely tricked me, and that was when I started to realize that they were onto something. And that's all due to their capability to analyze both cannabis and hops. So, just based on my experience with some of the other options in the industry, we are very unique. We're very exciting. We're very, very different. And I think that that's something that we'll talk. Like I said, I'll be boots on the ground in Virginia next week. I'd love to talk to people in person about that, but that's what I've seen as I speak to brewers that, again, to Ross's point, we're another shade or color of paint. I always say we're another tool in the belt. And I know brewers work hard, and all we want to do is, facilitate a little bit more ease and a little bit more profitability. So that's what we're here for, and higher amplitude. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I think to your point, Ross, most of it is application, and I think half an ounce is equivalent to about a pound of T90 is pretty powerful. I think that resonates with people.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Well, appreciate you guys having us in the stew today. Starting off the morning.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you guys very much.
Thanks, Andrew.